everybody, and I'm delighted to be featuring Priyanka Anand, Vice President and Head of HR, Southeast Asia, Oceania and India at Ericsson. Priyanka is speaking at our Future of Work APAC event, and I'm delighted to be joined by Priyanka now. Hi Priyanka, how are you?
Hey Ariana, good. And pleasure to be here. It's an incredible delight to have to spend some time with all of you and share some of my perspectives.
Awesome. So I'm going to kick off and just ask you some questions, really, first and foremost about COVID-19, how that's impacted Ericsson and really what strategies you've implemented to try and sustain close proximity to your employees at such a tricky time.
So again, I think it takes me back to the history of the last 12 months. And the way I would say it, at Ericsson, when this unprecedented pandemic hit the world, we did look at how will we as a company look at the whole situation, right? And what we decided was that we will ensure that we do the right things to first prioritize the safety of our employees. So first things first, we ensured by the beginning of March, much before this became a widespread awareness on the pandemic, we went with a work from home decision for our employees. So all 85,000 employees across 180 countries started to work from home overnight. And the second we ensured was we look at the entire situation with a growth mindset. So that we had a choice to make, whether we look at the situation as a crisis or we look at the situation as an opportunity. What we decided was that we will look at it as an opportunity and do everything possible to accelerate our digital journey and look at the well-being of our employees and take care of them during this whole situation. So like I said, with employee safety being our focus, we looked at a lot of well-being initiatives. One of them was launching an employee assistance program. It created a safety net for our employees where they could go and reach out to counselors 24/7, speaking in their regional languages to talk about their physical, social, psychological, financial well-being concerns, right? And there was always a conversation that could have happened. The second thing, Rihanna, that we did, which really stood out, was that we activated our biggest asset, our biggest lever, that was our leaders. And then we pushed our leaders to become both more empathetic and aware of our employee situations, even though all of us were in the same storm, but all of them were sitting in different boats. And managers and leaders had to make the right effort to understand and meet employees in the moments that mattered to them, the points of their journeys. And hence, we ensure that the leaders create that safety net and have those empathetic conversations, and also create a speak up culture where employees could bring in their concerns, bring in their perspectives, and ask what support they needed. Lastly, we also trained our leaders to become good virtual leaders as well as effective coaches. So it was important for employees to feel that we will be always on a journey to take care of them, not just here and now, but even in the long term. And leaders that became that real glue to have those here and now conversations in an empathetic manner, but also looking at their future career progressions and their current expectations in the career journey. The other thing we've done, Hannah, sorry, go ahead, you have a question.
Yeah, it's fantastic you've looked at this as an opportunity and you've really put people at the center of the organization and stemming that from leadership. Sorry, back to you. I think it's fantastic the way you've got this vision and you've viewed this as an opportunity.
Well, it's a great way of you summarizing how the journey was from the get-go, right? So because I just think the whole growth mindset made a big difference on how we looked at the situation. When you can't undo the situation, you do the best to make the positive out of that situation. And then we did a lot of small things and big things to keep the journey going. Like we went ahead and invested in Headspace, right? It's a app that everybody across the world is talking about. We made it available to our people, which could latch onto and look at how we could use techniques like meditation and so on and so forth. Other features of the application to create that level of mental well-being for our employees versus just the physical and the others that I spoke about, right? And on top of that, this whole Ericsson culture of being open, collaborative, cooperative became very, very prominent. We encouraged our people to reach out to each other, to support each other, to become available for each other, not just the leaders, not just vertical, but even horizontal. Create a community feeling, like I said, right? Because all of us were in the same storm. It became easy to understand that the storm could have different contexts to different people, and hence we had to just bespoke our approach towards reaching out to our employees. And then we really accelerated our well-being and wellness programs, right? It was important that we created that ecosystem where people could come and reach out and express their own needs. And we took constant pulse surveys to understand our employees' needs. And I think that was really important. We weren't sitting in one corner designing what will work for the employees, but we were taking a constant dialogue with them through surveys, assessing the effectiveness of how they experienced what we offered, also asked them what they wanted more of. So when we heard their feedback, we fine-tuned our strategy towards making things available. For example, people felt the home office setup was really painful for a longer period of working from home, because in Asia, that wasn't a given. So we started to invest in a furniture program for our employees across the globe. And we invested in giving them the IT support. We invested in doing a lot of other things for our employees so that they felt comfortable and supported during this phase. At the end, I would say the biggest win is we had a path-breaking stellar business performance. So we met our 2022 financial target already in 2020. So it was a real proof that no matter what odds, if you have the best leaders and a committed set of employees on the journey, you can overcome any crisis. So that was our story narrative of COVID-19. Yeah, thank you.
Really, really incredible. It sounds like putting people at the core of the business and really driving that employee experience and that human experience and listening to the employee is kind of crucial at this time. And when you looked at the opportunity, where does it take you now when it comes to looking at the future of work, and how do you define that at Ericsson?
So again, I think the beautiful thing about the future now is nobody knows how to make it happen. Nobody knows what will it take to succeed in the new normal in the future, right? Of what unfolds or what lies ahead of us. And to us, what we are really looking at this, like I said in the previous question, it's an opportunity, Rihanna. What we are saying is we are looking at every single bit of how we can reimagine the purpose of the role of the office. For us, one clear message is work is not a destination. It's an activity. Work can be done from anywhere, anytime, and we have to look at the new normal, which will be essentially a hybrid. So the hybrid context comes with the fact that we will have to create 3 different streams at the same time. We have to invest in a physical space that gives employees the flexibility to come around and have collaborative conversations, have teaming activities, and do stuff in a manner that gets the best in a physical setup, which gives them the belongingness, the socialness, the intimacy that's needed for employee bonding, as well as employee collaboration and cooperation. At the same time, we will continue to accelerate our digital investment, because virtual working is a reality that's going to stay for a much longer time than we would have ever imagined. So the virtual working has to continue to not just make it effective for me to be productive or efficient, but also effective for me to be able to collaborate and have more larger group conversations, get the best even in the virtual setup. And the third, which is extremely important, is the culture. Culture now needs to take a next leap and create a more flexible approach towards future of work, which clearly means we have to let employees decide how they want to contribute. We define the what, they decide the how, and that flexibility in a way defines and delivers work-life balance to our employees. So I would say at Ericsson, we are looking at this whole flexible workplace where the culture will play a key role in how we make it happen. And most importantly, I'll just wrap up in my last sentence telling, what we are looking at, the outcome of this entire investment has to create an environment where employees can perform. When they come together, they can interact to make meaningful relationships. They get the energy that they need to come and be productive, be innovative, be collaborative. And at the end, they should have the feeling of belongingness to each other, belongingness to Ericsson, and belongingness to the larger society. And that's what the future of work has to deliver to our employees.
I agree. I think when you mentioned the hybrid working environment or the distributed working environment going forward, it sounds like the culture underpins the future ultimately. If you're trying to align people, processes, and technology going forward, how do you embed that culture that you're looking to achieve?
So to me, I think culture never happens with people sitting at the top. Culture really happens with all of us walking the talk at the leadership level, but every employee having a very clear understanding of what culture really means. what is the culture we want each one of us in Ericsson to experience, but each one of us Ericsson to also live by, right? That's an important connotation, because gone are the days when culture can be defined by some policies or practices or some leaders, but it's each one of us living those values every single day, exhibiting those behaviors in everything that we do. So for us, there are 5 key behaviors that really underpin our culture ambition. First of all, like I said in the beginning, was empathy and humanness. Extremely important that each one of us look at being empathetic and human in all our interactions internally, externally, with the customer, whoever it is, because it's important to recognize that everybody is going through a different journey altogether, right? Number 2 is a speak up culture. Like I said, people have to be very, very comfortable about discussing the uncomfortables, bringing in a diverse perspective, talking about things that they believe or don't believe in. They're comfortable to challenge the conversations that are happening. So that's the second key important thing, speak up. But once decision taken, when all hands on the deck to execute those decisions. Third, that we collaborate and cooperate in every single way possible. It's never about individual success, it's always about collective success. Very important that we do courageous, fact-based decisions in everything, because it's important that we are both risk-taking and courageous, but at the same time, we take fact-based decisions to make it sustainable. And the last is speedy execution, because whatever we do, at the end, the execution has to be seamless and speedy, and that's what we underpin as our 5 key behaviors to live through our culture.
Fantastic. Incredible. I want to actually now move on to your speaking position that you're going to be joining us on the 23rd of March to present at our Future of Work APAC event. I'm really focusing on emerging tools to visualize the real-time state of the workforce. What can the audience expect from your session?
Okay, so like I said, I will be talking about a couple of things. Number 1, future of work. Extremely important that we start to think about the future with a fresh pair of eyes, with a perspective that is not influenced, with clearly challenging the status quo. The whole last 12 months has challenged everything we ever thought about future of work, about the digital acceleration journey, about the whole ability to work in a virtual setup. So to me, there will be good takeaways about how we can co-create the future of work. Like I said, nobody has the silver bullet on what will it take to succeed. It's all of us trying to walk the journey together and learning through each other's experiences and our own experiences. The other thing, of course, is important for that they will get as a takeaway is what are the things that will be the enablers in the future of work. And one of the biggest tenets is culture. How do we create an enabling culture to make future of work a reality? And our biggest lever in the whole journey will be our leaders. And leaders will play a critical role. And that's the only way we can pivot from the old normal to the new normal. And we will talk about the expectations and how we will support the leaders towards seamless transition of future of work. And again, the last thing, but which has been really our game changer, is the whole digital adoption and acceleration and digital literacy. So I will talk a lot about how this has to be a continued investment, because this wasn't a phase that we came in and kind of leverage the digital investments. This is going to be the future, right? So how do we continue to chug along the path by accelerating our digital investments, creating more appetite for digital adoption, not just in terms of tools, but also in terms of mindset. And third, how do we create more digital literacy across the board, not just in terms of working and productiveness, but also how we think, how we operate, how we deliver, how do we interact, all of it together. So to me, those will be the things that people can hear from us when we are part of that panel discussion.
It's very exciting. There's a lot of information here, and we're very excited to have you on board, especially when you mention that digital adoption, really focusing on not only the people, but that consistent journey that's probably going to happen for the next 2 to 5, 10 years, and that investment as well. So just on a final note then, Priyanka, when we look at the future of work, what's its importance to you, and what does it mean to you when we look at the future of work and the next generation and the importance of looking at how we can develop those people as well?
So to me, I think competence shift has never been more critical or less critical than it is today, right? So we have to make our people skill-proof and not just future-ready. So it's future-ready, skill-proof employee base is going to be our mantra. As an organization, we've always invested in upskilling, reskilling, and unskilling our people, right? If you look at Ericsson's telecom journey, the 5Gs happened in a span of a decade. And to me, the only way we could thrive through this inflection points, through those paradoxes of, being able to deal with the technology disruption, but yet leverage the technology advantages of 3G to 5G just in a span of like few years, was only possible because of our strong, robust foundation of creating a learning ecosystem for our employees. In our mind, Rihanna, one thing is extremely clear, that we treat every employee as a CEO of their own career. Employees have to design what do they need to acquire as their skills for today, here and now, but also start to look at what paths do they want to carve out for themselves to be ready for the future. Like I said, how do we make them future ready, skill proof, right? We create autonomy in them picking up their learning jobs, learning opportunities. We have platforms like Degreed where people can have anytime, anywhere learnings based on what they want to invest in themselves on. And at the same time, we create on-the-job learning opportunities. So they take their learnings from the classrooms, from the virtual sessions into the real job. So we create mobility options for people because we move them not just for proven competence, but potential of what they could do. So I think learning will continue to become the cornerstone and how we try and overcome this whole future of work ambition and succeeding in the future.
Yes, and it also sounds like there's more of the personalization element creeping in as well, specifically to the employees to protect that skill set you mentioned, which is fantastic.
Correct. I'll just add one final line to it, because I think gone are the days when we talk about developing employees based on content skills. We have to move from content to context. And to me, that's the journey we are embarking on. We look at the context of the employee. Where is the employee in terms of their career journeys, their personal journeys, their professional aspirations? And with that context, they can have a bespoke learning path or a customized learning path to fulfill their ambitions.
Priyanka, thank you so much for your time. I'm delighted to have spoken to you today, and we very much look forward to you speaking on the 23rd of March. So for everybody that's joined our session today, please also click the link to register for our event, Future of Work APAC 2021. And once again, thank you, Priyanka, for your time.
Thank you so much.